of Adjustment public hearing for June 11, 2024. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Have a few items to cover before we get started. Please sign in at the door if you have not already done so. There you will also find a detailed handout of the step-by-step procedure we will follow tonight if you wish to take one. Please put any electronic devices on silent mode at this time. Also, please note that all testimony is being recorded for the record. Members of the Board of Adjustment are appointed by the County Board of Commissioners with one member from each of the 5 commissioner districts. Land Services staff is here to assist the Board of Adjustments with its duties. The task of the Board of Adjustment is to consider requests for variances and appeals from an order requirement or decision made by a county zoning official in accordance with the state law and county ordinance. Each request is considered on its own merit. The burden of proving a practical difficulty rests with the applicant. If a variance is granted, it is granted to the land, not to the landowner. There's a protocol for how we will proceed tonight. For each variance request on the agenda, we will hear a staff report, hear testimony from the applicants, and then the board will discuss and gather more information as needed. Next, I will ask if there is anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the request. I will ask each party to come to the podium, state their name and address for the record, and give their testimony. Please be as factual as possible and direct all statements and questions to me. After all testimony is complete, I will close the public hearing portion of the process. The board will then review and discuss the case in terms of our finding of fact criteria as required by Minnesota statute and county ordinance. We will have a series of votes, discuss whether conditions be made, and have a final motion to approve or deny the request based on those findings. After this final vote on your request, you may leave if you wish. So we have 2 items on the agenda tonight. In the first regular agenda item this evening is Joseph and Jenny Keefe, 4691 Lakeview Drive, Cushing, Minnesota, 56443. Application for a variance to construct a deck within the setback of the lake and to be over in impervious surface. Located in lots 1 and 2, Block 1 of Falden Addition, Section 34, Township 132, Range 31, Scandia Valley Township. Owner or representative?
Owner.
Okay, can you please state your name and address for the record?
Joe Keefe, 4691 Lakeview Drive, Cushing.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Amy, staff report?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Again, this is a variance request to construct a deck within setback to the lake and exceed allowable impervious surface. And it's in Section 34 of Scandia Valley Township. The ordinance references for this is Section 705.6 and 706.1. And here's a plat map of Scandia Valley Township. The red dot is the location of the parcel. And then here's the variance request received from the applicant. And a site drawing also provided by the applicant, as well as the survey. Here's some site photographs that was also provided by the applicant with their application. And then here's the shoreline assessment worksheet that was also provided by the applicant. Here's an aerial photograph of the parcel. And then here's some other imagery of the property as well. And then here is the view of the property from the lake. And then here is a view of the property at the site viewing last Friday. Again, this property is in Section 34 of Scandia Valley Township on Lake Alexander. The parcel is a non-conforming single lot, which means it's less than 120 feet wide at the lake and 30,000 square feet in area. The parcel is 202.49 feet wide and 26,420 square feet. A variance was granted in 2006 to construct a dwelling within setback to the township road. According to the assessor's records, a 2,439 square foot dwelling built in 2006 exists on the property, and it is approximately 83 feet from the lake. A permit for several retaining walls was granted in 2007. This work resulted in an elevated patio area that was not identified in the permitting. The applicant acquired the property in 2017. The applicant requests a variance to replace this elevated patio with a deck of the same dimensions and distance from the lake, and this is an 8.5-foot encroachment on the setback from the lake. The existing impervious surface calculation is 33%, and the proposed impervious surface calc is 33%. 25% impervious surface is allowed. However, the applicant's surveyor has communicated that the applicant plans to reduce the impervious surface to 25%, but the applicant didn't commit to this at the time of the staff report, so that'd be something you'd want to be discussing with the applicant. And then here is just that exchange with the surveyor. The building envelope has been shown on the survey, and most of the dwelling fits within it, and so this is just a dialed in, and the dotted line around the home is that building envelope. The applicable comprehensive plan use goals are natural resources and open spaces, goal C2, shoreline development, goal D1. And then the water plan goals and objectives is surface water goal, objective B, land use and development goal, objectives B and D. 57 notices were sent and no comment was received prior to the hearing. And then here you're finding of fact and decision questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Amy. One quick note, I believe Brent, George, Marvin, and Clint, and Darren were on site on Friday, and then I was on the property on Monday the 3rd.
Okay.
Yep. Any corrections to that?
No?
Okay. Well, I'll open it up here to the board to ask questions or discuss any concerns you might have.
Mr. Chair,
Brent?
on Friday when we visited with you, we talked about that 25% impervious surface, and now that we have a letter that we've received and reviewed, is that something that you're agreeable with and
Yes.
meeting that?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that's what you had said on Friday. I just wanted it on the record. And should that be a condition placed upon this, you'd be okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
George?
So the other question I had is there any chance the guy can make that deck a little smaller? That's a pretty big deck.
There's a chance, but the existing structure that's there, that's what we're looking at. We're not looking at making a deck bigger. I guess if it was denied, the deck, we would go and build a new patio as is, which my understanding, I would have the right to do so, as is. So we would prefer not to. Can it be done? Sure.
Well, I guess my point would be it helps out with your impervious surface if you,
Yep, I understand, but I
Yep.
think the rock areas that we have that we talked about, if I eliminate those, whether it be grass or mulch without any barrier
Yep.
underneath it, I think I would be
Okay.
just below that impervious surface.
okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So right now, the request is to exceed the impervious surface and then to build the deck within setback. So right now, if he's gonna reduce down to the 25%, then you would only be considering the first part of the request, which would be to build the deck within setback. So are you looking to amend your request to only consider the construction of the deck within setback and not the overage and impervious surface?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Amy, I thought we spoke with Darren this morning, and it was still going to be over at like 26 point something percent.
So I think what was identified, you were gonna remove, I think Darren had done a calculation, it was running about 26. So the question, I guess, to you would be, are you willing to do whatever is needed to get it down to 25? And work with Darren on what that might look like?
Sure.
Okay,
I mean, I'm kind of limited to what other options I have. There's a lower patio I could possibly make smaller. I can't really make any changes to the driveway per se. So those are really the only hardscapes that I have that would
That you have
add
to
to the
work with.
impervious. So-
yes, yes.
I
So
don't
that was
know.
just a quick field calc on Darren's part, so I think if you, or otherwise it would be,
I guess the question is, how do I calculate
Yes.
that without
We'd have to
having to
quantify
pay for
that.
another survey.
Yeah, otherwise, it might be, you might want to amend the request to, instead of maintain 33%, maybe maintain 26 or 27, just to give you that wiggle room.
I'd agree with that.
Okay, so is that what you'd like to do, is have them consider a lower
Please.
impervious surface?
Yes.
Okay, so I think it would be safe to say maybe consider a 27%, and that would give a little bit of wiggle room, and he'd maintain a 27% impervious surface, and he'd reduce down to that.
Mr. Chair.
Clint?
So we kind of talked about that at the site visit. We knew that he couldn't quite get down if we took out all them things. And I know it's not right, but when we looked, we had the discussion at the site visit that, you know, when he puts that deck in, the deck is considered impervious surface, but we also kind of talked that that water's still going through the deck. It's going to go into the ground. And I know he's still legally over the impervious surface, but I thought when we all talked a little bit that we kind of thought that that would maybe mitigate that just a little bit, because I know on paper it's going to show that it's over, but the water's still going to go down in underneath, because you're going to put a cloth that the water absorbs through, and you're going to plant some bushes underneath there. He said he was going to plant some bushes underneath there. You're taking out the big ones and putting in different ones in the front that would suck in water. So I know legally on paper it's going to say he's 26.5 or 27 or whatever it is, but we thought maybe that the water's still going to go through that deck. I know it can't be legally that way, but we would like it to be 25. But if there is no other, I don't know.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to mention a few things. First of all, according to his drawing, it's showing his 70 feet away with the patio, but then if you look at the survey, it's 66.5 feet. So, you know, you're still not that 75 feet like we'd like to attain. And, you know, if you would cut down the size of that deck slightly closer to the house, looking it over, I can see why you want to have by your grill, be able to walk out there in the front, and you know how it bows out. Yeah, you could probably still achieve your 25% if you just slightly made it a little bit narrower. And that's kind of where I was going with it, or thinking.
One thing we have done, I'll just mention, so between the patio and the lake, we do have a buffer. The grass does not go right up to the edge of the water, so we have maintained a buffer there to also absorb some of that runoff.
I will make a comment to that, and I think we all agree you do a fantastic job. For a person that mows, that lawn is beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and usually people mow it all the way down to the lake. You don't, and you have that buffer and doing and keeping it like that. You can see you've been a good steward of that land, and you know, this variance goes with the piece of property, but not with you, but the way that's kept is absolutely beautiful, without a question. But I just wanted to throw that out there, that you could probably drop it down to that 25 by slightly making it a little narrower, getting further away from the lake, and would be a little bit more palatable in my eyes.
On the back side of the garage, there is additional rock there. It's probably 5 feet from the back of the garage out, so that could actually probably be made smaller as well. So
That would probably get you closer to.
that would,
Yeah.
So you'd be fine if we just say you got to be at 25 and work with Darren to get to 25.
yes,
Then we only have to look at that deck.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That makes it a lot easier on it. And see, we have ordinances.
I'm pretty
If you
certain
follow
we could
in-
get below the 25% with some work, so.
Mr. Chair,
Clint?
because I just want to make comment to go what Marv said. So, you know, he's got all that. We don't see that on the shoreline a lot where you leave all that wild in front like that. But then also just wanted to put it on the record that if you look along, even where he has his riprap, the whole shoreline, except for right where he gets on his boats, is all burned. So no water actually runs into the lake. It'd have to be a 3-inch rain and the rain piling up and go over the rock. The whole thing is burned, even where the grass is cut by the,
The problem with the rain going into the water is actually from the road.
Yep.
because there is a gutter that the township put in there, and it wraps it right down into my landing and runs right into the lake.
Yep. No, I just wanted to say that this property, it's really good set up that runoff. Very, very few spots along that shoreline, water can actually get to the lake.
And gutters are put in the right direction too. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, another question I had is, so when you take that cement deck out or patio out of there,
Yes.
you got a haul, there's going to be dirt removed from the site, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I guess what I would like to see is when they are removing that dirt, is that there some sort of like silt fence or biomass logs that they put on the ground to keep runoff from going down to the lake in case a guy gets a gusher?
Understood.
But that, best management practices, but something like that would be helpful too during the
Okay.
construction. I think you said it was gonna take like 10 days?
10 days to 2 weeks.
Yep, okay, yep, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair,
Clint?
just clarification, Amy, then if he agrees to go to the 25, do we have to make that a condition, or is that just off the table? Do we have to put that
I
as a
would-
condition?
I would certainly condition
Okay.
it that he gets down to it, but because he's not asking for an overage, and right now he's over.
Okay.
John, I would also condition the best management practices during construction, to make sure that there is something there to, seems like we get bigger and bigger rainfalls and
Yep. Got that down? Mm-hmm. That two?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, board members, last call.
Maybe open up to the public, Mr. Chair?
We'll do that. So anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this request, please walk up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Any public comment? Any public comment? Any public comment? We will close this section of the hearing to the public. Thank you. Okay, we'll go through the finding of fact questions, and there are two conditions right now that the board has considered or is going to discuss. And Amy, if you just want to repeat those for us, that would be great.
Yep, Mr. Chair, it's reduce the impervious surface down to 25%, and that stormwater BMPs shall be in place during construction of the deck.
Okay, thank you. Okay, to the questions. Number one, the request is the request in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan? Clint?
Yes, presently he's over on his impervious surface. He's agreed to, with the condition, he's agreed to lower that to the 25. Yes, he's still gonna be a little bit close to the lake, but I think with all of his management practices for water runoff, the shoreline that he has, and all them things that are done with this, I think that mitigates some of the questions we might have. So I think when we look through, the general purpose and intent of the ordinance and the comp plan, what he has there as far as the environmental stuff that he's already has on this property, I think that mitigates some of the question we have. So I would say yes, it is in harmony with the general purpose and intent.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, question two, is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the land use ordinance? I'll take that one. As you can see by the drawings, and as the applicant's come here tonight and talked about reducing the impervious surface down, he could replace the patio anyway, but he's willing to work with the county on this, and it's more than reasonable to be requesting what you are. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, all I'd like to add, because we didn't talk about it, we had a discussion out there, is with doing the deck, or that patio the way it is, with all that vegetation in the front, I'll leave that go for number 3, sorry. Sorry.
Oh, good. Anybody else? All right, to number 3. Will the issuance of this variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Marvin?
Yes, I believe so. In fact, I think his piece of property, the way it's kept and all, is probably the highest rated one around there. It's absolutely gorgeous, and the way he keeps it. And anyhow, you see the way things are taken care of near the lakeside with the buffer, with vegetation, areas, entrapment there around the deck. He was planning to continue to keep his shrubs around there. And from the front side, you will not notice it. Lakeside, you probably won't notice it. The stone will go away, and you're going to be replacing with a deck.
Thank you, Marv. Anybody else?
Marv covered it.
Okay. Thank you. Question 4, is the alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property? Brent?
I think there's a few things that are unique to this. That township road being the dead end where it is, the setback on that township road, the size of that lot developed, the issuance of the variance in 2006, building the house where the house was built, the 2007 variance for that retaining wall. While maybe not meeting the setback now, maybe it was a retaining wall and later just paved over the top regardless. Now we're looking at a situation where maintenance needs to occur because water is starting to run back against the foundation of the property. So there's a maintenance issue that needs to be addressed. So the practical difficulty is trying to make everything work with what was there to what can be there now. And I think that practical difficulty is unique to the way this property has been developed over the years, and with the various variants that have been granted in the past have kind of created this difficulty today that we're trying to grapple with.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Question 5, is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners? George?
Yes, over time, there's been deterioration of the existing cement patio. It's settled towards the house, directing water towards the house. And that's what's created the need for the variance, and the fact the new structure will be a wood or engineered material, which will improve the whole site, in my opinion.
Thank you, George. Anybody else? Question 6 is, does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? Clint?
Yes, I do. I believe here he's looking at trying to fix deterioration. The water runs in that one corner right to the house. When we look at it, it is definitely more than economics, because he's going to take out some impervious surface. That's going to cost him money, taking that out. I think when you look at the overall project and what he's willing to do with what's already installed as far as environmental safety things that we have, that he has along the shoreline, and I think it's actually going to be real beneficial to that lot, to that property, and it's going to clean things up a little bit also, I believe, and I think environmentally it's going to help it. So as far as money goes, there's more than just the economics of it.
Thank you, Clint.
One more comment I'll add to what Clint says. Also, adding the railing, have something 6 feet off the ground without a railing would be a safety concern also, to add on to that.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, board. Without any other further comments on number 6 here, we will go to the questions vote. Okay. Number 1 is the request in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan. Clint?
Yes, with the 2 conditions.
I, John, yes. Marv?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Number 2 is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the land use ordinance. I, John, yes. Marv?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes, because of the conditions.
Question 3, will the issuance of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Marv?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
I, John, is yes. Question 4, is the alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property? Brent?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
I, John, is yes. Marv?
Yes.
Question 5, is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners? George?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
I, John, is yes. Marv?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Question 6, does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? Clint?
Yes.
I, John, is yes. Marv?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
All of the questions have been answered to the affirmative. Do I have a motion to approve this variance with the 2 conditions as requested?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make that motion.
Marv? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
Thank you, Brent. A motion was made by Marv and seconded by Brent to include the conditions. All those in favor? Brent?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Marv?
Aye.
Clint?
Aye.
Aye. John is aye. The motion carries to approve the variance as requested. Staff will work with you on your options, and thanks for working with the county on this. Appreciate it very much. That's all?
Good luck with it, too.
Yeah.
So can I ask what the process is to, do
So-
we go in?
So, yep, the next step would be go ahead and apply for that deck. Yes.
Okay, all
Yep,
right,
yep.
okay. And then
And
work
you can
with
do that
them.
as soon as tomorrow if you'd like.
Okay,
So,
thank you much.
Enjoy your night.
Thank you.
Good luck, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item number 2, Thomas and Joanne Gantz, 12804 Forest Road, Little Falls, Minnesota. After the fact variance to continue a home addition within the setback to the lake located in plot of the southeast quarter, section 13, township 130, range 30, Darling Township. Sir, please state your name and address for the record.
Thomas Gans, 12804 Forest Road, Little Falls.
Thank you very much. And Miss Amy, can we start with the staff report?
you bet. So again, this is an after-the-fact variance request to expand a non-conforming structure located in section 13 of Darling Township. The ordinance reference for this is 706.1. And then here is a plat map of Darling Township with the red dot indicating the location. And then here is the variance request received from the applicant. And then a site drawing also provided by the applicant. And then here is the shoreline assessment worksheet completed by the applicant. Here's an aerial photograph of the parcel outlined in blue. And then here's some additional imagery. And then here is also a lakeside or lake shoreline view of the property. And then here are a couple of photos that were taken at the site viewing last Friday. Again, the property is in section 13 of Green Prairie Township on Green Prairie Fish Lake. The parcel is a non-conforming single lot size. It is 115 feet wide and 23,150 square feet. According to the assessor's records, a 1972 mobile home exists on the property and it's approximately 75 feet from the lake. The Land Services Department received a complaint that additions had been placed on the garage and mobile home and a patio had been installed. No permits were on file, and a first notice of violation was sent. The applicant responded to the violation letter and permitted the garage addition and patio. The expansion of the mobile home and deck attached to the dwelling could not be permitted because they do not meet setback from the lake. The applicant requests an after-the-fact variance to keep the 2x12 addition on the dwelling 70 feet from the lake. The applicant has stated he will remove the deck. And then here's a picture of what we're looking at and talking about. The applicant acquired the property in 2019, and the existing impervious surface calculation, including the expansion, is 14.4%. The approximate building envelope is 5,678 square feet, and there is that. The applicable comprehensive land use plan goals is natural resources and open spaces, goal C2, shoreline development, goal D1. And then the water plan goals and objectives, surface water goal, objective B, land use and development goal, objectives B and D. 68 notices were sent. 1 comment in favor of the request was received before the hearing. I'll read that. It's from Robert Masog, and he states, in regards to this June 11th, 2024 county planning meeting, my name is Robert Masog. I live next to Tom and Joanne Gans. My home is only a few feet from the property line. I was unaware of any new construction on their property until informed by this letter. I have no problem with them completing that construction, as I have only seen an improvement in the appearance of this property since they have owned it. And that was the only comment received. And then here are your finding of fact and decision questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Amy. Sir, anything to add to that, or correct, or?
That's right. No.
Okay, thank you. Board members, open up for discussion and question.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
this is maybe a question for Amy. So when we grant a variance, the variance goes with that property, but really we're granting a variance to extend on the end of a mobile home, which is a removable structure on a property. So I just want some clarification on that before we move forward on it.
By ordinance, we regard a mobile home as a dwelling, and dwellings must meet all setbacks. And so, if this is movable, he can certainly scoot the the mobile home back, to meet the setback. I don't know how portable, mobile homes really are when they're connected to utilities and all that, but we regard it as a dwelling, and it needs to meet setback just like any other dwelling. Recreational vehicles are a little bit different story, but that is not what we're talking about here.
So concerning to me would be if we grant this 2-foot variance and then the mobile home is later removed and we granted a variance to be 73 feet from the water's edge, maybe we need to condition it to the removal of the mobile home then.
Got it.
That would go away.
No, I understand what you're saying. And in the case, if he were to replace that mobile home, he would need permitting from us to replace that mobile home. But you bring up a very good point that if there was an ordinance in place that that allowed that, how I'm looking at that is the variance you're granting is to expand the existing mobile home to be 73 feet. I don't believe that would give him the right then or create that new line, because this was to expand that existing mobile home. If he switches that out, to me, he's acted on that variance and it doesn't apply and it doesn't run with any mobile home that he would have. So I think it'll be important how I write the findings. Either that, or if you're comfortable with a condition that does not set the building line for this one, I think that would make sense too.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm thinking is
Yes.
that we would maybe want to condition that so that we didn't create that quagmire down the road.
Yes.
So if you can, I think we should probably condition that with the removal of this, that it
It
would go
applies to
away.
this particular
Mobile
mobile
home.
home. Yes,
Yeah, and not to the setback for a future variance.
understood. And that makes sense.
And as far as moving the mobile home, I think we talked about that. There was a variance granted on this property prior to encroach on the setback to the road right-of-way. So it's already
Can't move, yeah.
lengthwise, you can't move it this way to clear it up on the backside, and you can't, so it,
I don't plan on moving it. I'll be dying. It'll be like that when you die.
yeah. No, I understand that. I don't think I have any further questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think there was discussions on the site visit too about the deck that he installed on there. And I think there was some discussion about if he shrank the size down to 32 square feet, it could stay?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
We had discussion, I believe, in the development review team meeting that, it's understood that you need access in and out of your home, and that could be reduced down to 32 square feet because that's a landing. And then he could have steps going down so he can still get in and out of there. And that's not considered a deck and would not be subject to a variance. So I believe that that's what you were thinking
Right,
about
that's what
doing,
we're gonna do.
is just reducing that down to the 32 square feet and putting the stairs down, and that's not anything that you would need to consider.
So would that be a condition then that we would put on it, being that deck is already there?
Well, he's not asking for a variance for the deck, so it's a violation at this point. So you certainly can condition or give him a deadline to get that done, but the only thing he's asking for, the only thing you're considering, is that bump out of the mobile home there. The rest of it would, since he didn't secure or ask for a variance, that would be an ongoing violation that we'd require him to remove.
Okay, thank you.
Sense?
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
On
Marv?
that same note, it's not only the deck, you look at the roof line, it's the same thing over the top like that, so it would be pretty tough to do that. And I was going to question, and I believe it was covered when Brent asked the question about the variance to the road right away, and that particular one not being able to shift it, so you covered that one quite well. But yeah, with both the roof and this deck here, yeah, I don't know much more than you'd have to clip it down, and yeah, it would look pretty tough that way.
Mr. Chair.
Clint?
Okay, then we're trying to determine, do we have anything, Amy, when that trailer was put in there? What year? I was trying to read through and we couldn't find, we figured it was like 70 or 72 or,
72 or something like that.
Yeah.
The trailer house is, but
What I'm showing, let me see. Oops.
It says the mobile home was replaced between 17 and 2020.
Let me get to my slides here. I just gotta get. So I believe the assessor's records, they state the year of the mobile home. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's when it arrived on the site. So I'm not sure exactly when this particular mobile home was placed on the site.
okay, that's fine. It's just, we had a discussion with Mr. Gans and to his knowledge, it was moved in a year or two or somewhere around the date of when it was manufactured, to
Right,
your
I think-
knowledge.
I think that's
So that's why we're looking at, and since then, the need for that variance for the road right away, that, I don't know how that come about because that road changed. I'm old enough, I remember when I was a kid, I used to go down to that lake and the beach, living there my whole life. It was gravel when I was a little kid. Maybe whatever, we're not looking at that, but that's just part of probably my argument later for a practical difficulty, but maybe somewhere in the county engineers would know.
Where are you seeing that there was a variance to the road? The last one had a variance to the
Oh,
road.
maybe
I don't
that's what
think
I'm
this
looking
one
at.
did.
Okay, whatever, that's fine then. No variance, but
No,
to
this
be
one
able to
doesn't
move
have any
it.
prior variances.
But he can't go any closer to the road,
I would have to look.
yeah.
Mr. Chair, on that same note, I believe Darren says the only thing he's asking for a variance is the 2-foot setback to the lake because the rest meets. Okay, so that's all we should be focusing on.
Yep, is that 2-foot bump up?
Mr. Chair, is, I guess my question, so, Mr. Gans, can you explain, you got that 2-foot bump out, what your reasoning was and why you did it that way, or maybe enlighten us a little bit on that?
well, when we first got it, and the door had been removed, the back door, so there's no more fire escape back there, and it only had the windows that went across, and they leaked. We started siding the house and stuff, and then he said, you know what, it'd be nicer to have this other 2-foot or whatever. And so then we just built that out, and I put them French doors in for the fire escape and stuff, and then I thought it was gonna be, you'd go straight down from like the end of that deck if there's posts in the ground. So that's why I welded it to the frame of the house, because I figured it'd still go back to the bottom of the house to measure it. And
Okay. But why did you put the 2 feet out on the house for the,
it made the bedroom a little bigger.
oh, okay.
Yeah, the fire escape was just the doors, so.
Okay. And he is good, yeah, okay. Okay, I have no more questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Clint. Anybody else? So Amy, one quick question. So inside of the application here, I know we're just talking about the 2-foot bump out on the variance right now, so everything else that's listed in this letter is that's not for us at this time.
Correct, it's been resolved. So
Okay.
when we have a violation, a lot of times, it was done without permitting, and if they come in and permit it, that's great. So he permitted what he could. We couldn't permit this because it didn't meet setback.
Got it.
That's why we're doing a variance for this portion of that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just
But-
one more. Amy can answer this. So I looked at the building envelope.
Yes,
Okay, so it shows like roughly a 30-foot from the trailer to the road right away. Are we at 40 is what we're supposed to have in
No,
that area?
In Shoreland, it's 30.
30, okay, so he's right at it.
Correct.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
that's where I was going with. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, thanks.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
one question for Thomas. When you bought this property in 2019? No?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Was there a second door on it, or had that already been covered up?
That had already been covered up.
So there was no second exit
No.
to the home itself? Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Marv?
Another comment I'd like to make. Normally, we have a shoreline specialist out there, and Darren was already out there in overlooking this, taking care of items. And typically, when we approve something like this, we recommend gutters and all. And being that was such a flat lot and everything basically being saturated there, no need for it, so we don't need to be covering that. But I just wanted to make it for the record that Darren was out there with his recommendations, and there was nothing to be done to it to help with that.
Okay.
Thanks, Marv. Anybody else? Okay. I'd like to open up to the public for comment. If you have anything to say, please walk up to the podium, state your name and your address for the record. Any public comment? Any public comment? Any public comment? We will close this section of the hearing to the public. Okay, we'll move on to the finding of fact criteria questions. Question number 1, is the request in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan? Start with George.
It's a visual improvement. It's a 2-foot addition or 2-foot encroachment on the lake. Takes from 75 down to 73 feet. 24-foot increase in impervious surface. Impervious surface is less than 15%. Also, part of the lot is unmowed over in would be the northwest corner. It's a very flat lot. Runoff is probably not an issue there at all.
Okay, anybody
Chair?
else? Marv?
Another item that needs to be mentioned about this here, the reason for what he wanted to do is a fire exit. You know, you have one door on it, and you have that trailer, if something would happen, he needs a safe exit, and a safe exit wouldn't be a direct drop down like that. So, I believe this would fit within a comp plan to have a fire exit.
Thank you, Marv. Okay, question 2, is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the land use ordinance? Clint?
I think so. When we look at this is like one of the lot smaller square footage asks that people have come forward. It's a little bit tough because, yeah, he added 2 feet on just so they had a little more room for a bedroom. But what he's asking isn't, tons of square feet. I think with putting a condition on that, this just stays with this mobile home and not any more moving forward, I think it really helps. It helps me to say yes to this, that it's reasonable. It's like he said, it's not into the ground. We're not gonna worry about that landing because it's getting changed to a landing and not a deck. So I think when we look at it, the way his property is, he's way below on his impervious surface. He got some of the other infractions that were occurring there. He got that all taken care of before tonight. I think it is really reasonable. It's not like he excavated dirt or done a lot of damage to the ground and then to the environment. The lot is really a nice lot as far as water runoff. It can't run anywhere. So I think just by that little bump out and to go along with Marv said, he does need a second exit. Yeah, could have did that 2 feet back. But I think with putting the condition on that it only would go to this mobile home, it helps me answer this is yes.
Thank you, Clint. I'd add to that just to say, put the numbers to it, that 10% under the impervious surface while making this request, and then you sprinkle in everything is primarily within the building envelope on all 3 structures. That's, I think that's more than reasonable to ask. Anybody else? Okay. Number 3, will the issuance of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality as you pull up to it from the road? It looks like a lot of the other homes there, and then we even have a letter from the neighbor here stating that the appearance of it is already improving as some of the work is being done. So, yeah, you're maintaining the character of that location. Anybody else? Okay. Question 4, is the alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property? Marv.
I think what makes this unique is this mobile home is placed where it cannot be moved any closer to the road. He needed an exit, and the second exit to this was blocked off in the inside or redone, so he couldn't use it. So with that, makes it unique, and he needed an exit, and you can't blame him wanting to see out on the lake. As Clint has mentioned in the back, almost everybody that owns a lake lot wants to be able to see the lake. And with French doors like that makes it where he wants to do that.
Thank you. Clint?
I just wanted to add that he tried to use the building envelope as much as he could. One thing that just makes this one, I don't know if it's unique just to this property, but it's all the properties along there. I will say, like I said, back 40 years, within the last 40, could have been 25, I don't remember, but that used to be just a little dirt road, 2-track road, and in the last 50 years for sure, because that's how old I am, and I know it was in my lifetime, it got tarred, and I'm sure when it got tarred, I know it got widened. The turn got changed up to the west of your property, so I know they took a bigger road right away than what was originally there, so that just crunches that building envelope for him and probably everybody else on that side of the lake. But that's just another factor, I think.
Thank you, Clint. Okay, number 5, is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners? Brent.
I kind of struggle with this question, and that was the reason why I asked if that mobile home had a second exit to it. Because this is a question we have to answer. Is that due to something you did or something that the prior landowners did? And I don't know that we know the answer to that. That could have been a mobile home that didn't have a second door when it was moved in there and placed there. And if that's the case, then that question could be answered in the affirmative, that it wasn't the landowner or a previous landowner, it was somebody that did that somewhere else and eliminated that exit. So I guess that's how I'm going to look at this. You know, he put in a second exit on an elevated platform, not touching the ground. But I guess I don't know who did that. I don't know who created that.
Mr. Chair,
Clinton?
just want to tie along with what Brent said is, I think by putting that condition in that it only goes with this mobile home, I think that helps us answer some of these questions along with this one for me. If that wouldn't be tied in there, then it might change the outcome a lot, I think. Because otherwise, everybody's gonna put 2 feet on and we're just gonna say yes. I think being that if we put, in this instance, by putting that condition on, I think it also helps answer that question too.
Thank you, Clint. Okay. Question 6, does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? George?
I guess, yeah, the need for a second fire escape or a second way out of the building, leaking windows. You know, he's obviously stuck a lot of money into the building itself by putting a roof on it and siding. And, you know, I guess the question would be, I think it said somewhere in here, it was a 72 mobile home, you know, and, you know, so sticking money into it just keeps it out of the junkyard.
Thank you, George. Anybody else? Okay, before we move on to the actual vote here, was there only one owner of this prior to you purchasing?
I think so, but I'm not quite sure.
Would we know that at the county?
I'd have to look through the recorded documents to know how many owners have owned the parcel. I wouldn't necessarily be able to tell you how many people owned the parcel with that mobile home on there. I can tell you who's owned the parcel over time with a review of the recorder's documents, but it
Right.
wouldn't tell me necessarily if that mobile home was there.
Which makes number 5 basically, yeah, to know one way or another, unless we actually have that. Okay.
The other way you could look at that, at this, and I absolutely understand where Brent is going with that, because if the prior property owner had this and essentially painted them into a corner of having to modify this home in some way to get another exit, that weighs differently than, hey, we recognize that this needed a second exit, so I put one in. You know, so I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, strictly from a safety perspective, obviously building standards and codes have changed for mobile homes like that, so it's not like they were adding them in 1972. That's where my brain goes with an ask like this, so.
Well, my train of thought on that is, you know, we're trying to answer a question, and was the actions created by the landowner or the previous landowner? I don't know that the landowner or the previous landowner created this condition. That could have been a used mobile home bought from
Right.
John's Mobile Home Park in Rice, and it didn't have that door, and it was moved onto that location and placed there. And that very well could have been in that, and if that were the case, then I could answer this question in the affirmative, that it wasn't created, you know, by the landowner, the current or previous landowner. We don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. We are moving on to the vote for each of the questions now at this time. Number 1,
Hold on, Mr. Chair.
Clint.
We just have
Oh,
one
with the
condition
2 conditions, right?
or 2? What do we have?
Mr. Chair, I have written down one condition,
Okay.
and that is regarding that this variance is applicable to this particular mobile home and does not set the building line for any subsequent dwellings or
Yep.
structures on the property. That's what I've got down
Okay.
as a condition.
Board good with that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Good with that?
Yes.
Perfect. That's what we're going with the one condition as we're voting on the questions. Number 1 is the request in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan. George?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes, with the condition.
I, John, is yes. Marv?
Yes, with the conditions.
Brent?
Yes.
Question 2 is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by land use ordinance. Clint?
Yeah, with that condition, my answer is yes.
I, John, is yes. Marv?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Will the issuance of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? I, John, is yes. Marv?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Question 4 is the alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property. Marv?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
I, John, is yes. Question 5 is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners. Brent?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
I, John, is yes. Marv?
Yes.
Question 6, does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? George?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
I, John, is yes. Marv?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Chair, all of these have been answered in the affirmative. This is an after-the-fact variance request. So there is a second set of criteria that the Board of Adjustment may apply. You don't have to, but this is where you would discuss whether or not you want to apply those after-the-fact criteria and go through them. So that's what you should be discussing at this moment.
Okay, so I'm just going to go right down the line to make this as simple as possible and ask each board member if they would like to discuss the additional criteria. Brent?
We've answered all questions in the affirmative, so I'm not sure that we need to.
Perfect, thank you. George?
Yeah, I don't think we need to either. I mean, I went through them all and thought about them and looked at them, and I guess maybe we're beating a dead horse.
Thank you. Marv?
No.
Clint?
I might say no also because we kind of covered a lot of it, not all of them, but we did cover a lot of them through our site visit and tonight's hearing.
Perfect. I also am not in favor, which means all 5 said no thank you.
All right, so then, Mr. Chair, you can go ahead and vote.
Perfect. Well, all the questions were
Motion, yeah.
answered in the affirmative, so do I have a motion to approve this variance with conditions as requested?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion.
Thank you,
With the
George.
condition?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Brent. Motion was made by George, seconded by Brent to approve the variance as requested. All those in favor say aye. Brent?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Marv?
Aye.
Clint?
Aye.
Aye. John is aye. All right, so the motion carries to approve the variance as requested. Staff will work with you on your options, and thank you very much for your time.
Thanks.
So the next step would be just to chat with Darren. You'll need to permit the expansion and then work with him on a timeline on reducing that deck down to the landing, okay?
Okay,
All right.
all right, thanks.
Thank you.
That finishes up the agenda for the night, and we are moving on to the minutes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion made, seconded, approved. New business?
I think, Mr. Chair, for Board of Adjustment, the only thing I have is, in the office, we are working on an updated variance application. And what we're looking to do is have it be a little more helpful to the applicant to explain what we're asking, what the meaning of the question is. Also, then, it is going to require, as part of a complete application for shoreland requests, we will be requiring a survey with everything laid out. So I met with staff today to kind of go through the draft and got lots of great input. And once I have that put together, I'm going to email it to you to review because I want your feedback. I think we want to be looking at it through the eyes of an applicant. And then also you, when you're looking through, does this give me the information that I want? Does this ask the questions I want to know the answer to? So I'll be sending that out to you probably here in the next week or so, and then I'll invite your feedback on that. So I think that's all I've got for new business.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Clint?
Amy, it was basically sent one email with some of them bullet points already.
I think
It's
that
gonna
was
be
the reasoning for the survey.
Pretty similar to that.
Well, I'm gonna send you, it's actually, you're gonna see, so you know the application, it's a whole new
Yep.
packet. I'm gonna give you all of the, so essentially, I'm going to show you what we're gonna be giving to the applicant to fill out.
Okay. Well, I'm just, because if it's all along the same line that we had that one email, I think that's all good.
Yeah, I believe the email, if I recall, I think the email that I sent you was about that we were gonna start requiring a survey and the reasons why.
Yeah, and then you had a couple other bullet points.
Yeah, so that's in furtherance of that. So I think that's all I've got for Board of Adjustment stuff.
So, Mr. Chair, Amy, this question for you is,
Yeah.
On Joe O'Keefe's property, I noticed that a lot of them are filled out into each piece in the past where the impervious surface was in the calculation, and his was just a blank. We have 33%.
Because he had a survey done, and the surveyor had calculated it, and it was on the survey.
Because
Yes.
otherwise, it's kind of helpful to see
Yeah.
the worksheet and.
So you're not gonna see that anymore, because we're gonna require a survey, and we're gonna require the surveyor to calculate that.
So
So
he-
you're gonna find it on the survey.
So, yeah, because otherwise, I think we've noticed that we've had applicants in the past forget things or not
Yes.
include items.
And that's why it's important, I think, for a third party to do that. Plus, then we're working with the square footage of the property according to the legal description. And so I think what it's gonna bring is a lot of consistency to the information that you're getting. And I don't think that you're gonna question the accuracy of the information. So I think that, and I know just from experience, when we are working with an applicant that has gotten a survey, it's so much clearer what exactly they're asking for, what the setback is, because what's happening right now is our staff is going out and doing that legwork. We're going out and shooting the ordinary high and figuring out what their setback's going to be, and then recalculating the impervious surface and looking up in the recorder's office what the legal description is. And that's falling on staff to do, and it should be falling on the applicant to do.
Thank you, that's great, because I think we can look back at pieces of property, we were looking at it, we go there, and all of a sudden, oh, the stake should be somewhere around here. And then you find out another piece of property is infringing on the neighbor's property, and just like, here we go again.
Right.
So, no, you're moving in the right direction. Thank you for your
Yep.
legwork and the staff's legwork with this.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Just one follow-up with Amy. I remember when we talked about this some time back regarding the survey, but if there was a survey done in, say, a recent land development or something, and the survey stakes are known and present, are they still going to be required to have a survey done?
If the survey they had done contains all of the information we're asking for, then no. If it doesn't, then they may need to get that survey to add information. So it depends on what they had done.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I just remembered there wasn't a mandatory everybody, but if that information is there and it's recent and it's known.
If they've
and
got
the
it,
stakes are there.
Yep, then, so that'd be something that we would work with the property owner on, what they've got. Yeah, and it may depend on the request, because if it's maybe they have a boundary survey and we know, and that survey shows the setback from the lake, and it shows all of those things, and they're only going up, then, so we'd certainly work with them, but we're going to make sure that you've got that baseline information
Well,
that
it's
you need.
likely to limit the variance requests then too, because now you're.
They gotta be-
Just adding another $1,000 to a variance request.
Yeah.
People are at expending $2,000 for I don't know if I'm gonna get it or not.
Exactly. So this is, yeah, this will certainly make them think about whether or not they can look at some alternatives. And they have to really be in it.
It's great to see a lot of these variances coming through without ones we have to come up with answering the questions for them.
Oh, I don't know.
Tonight, well, yes, second one was kind of, yeah, that was pretty iffy on the second one, but the other ones for some time,
Yeah.
they've been
And
pretty
we're
good.
hope with that revamped application, asking different questions of the applicant and giving them, for example, we're gonna be saying, what exactly are you asking for? And we're gonna give them check boxes, setback from the lake, how many feet? From the side property line, how many feet? So they check everything that they're asking for, because sometimes it's not clear what they're telling you what they want to do, but they never identify, oh, and by the way, all of this, we're going to encroach on the setback from the lake. So we're hoping to help them tell that to us in plain English.
So is that an online application or is that a paper application?
Right now, it is a paper application. I think we are working with our IT department on forms and form submittal online, and conversion of some of our forms to digital. So this would be one of them that we would be looking at being able to give people the option. But like I said, we'll be working, IT is still working on that just for the county in
Yeah.
general. Yeah, but we'd definitely love to offer it that way. We offer it online for them to download and all of that online. We offer the PDF format now,
Yep.
so they can get it, but yeah, we only accept it in a paper.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be good, because not everybody's an engineer the best application, I've only been here a short time, but the best application I saw was at Martini, but he deals with that every day. So you get somebody, that might only come in once in a lifetime to do this,
Yeah.
yeah,
it's be difficult. I
Yeah.
can see where it'd be very difficult for people to do it. So the easier we can make it, gives us more information, we gotta try to pull it out of them.
agreed.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
So that's all I've got for
That's
new
it?
business. Yeah, that's it, that's all.
Chair, I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Motion was made and seconded to adjourn, and we have no old business. So, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. See ya.